Hello, everyone. Welcome.
Hi, I'm Lily,
Hi, I'm Oliver.
and this is Science in Easy English.
And today we're asking, well, it's a pretty simple question. Can you control your dreams?
That is the big question, isn't it?
It is, because I think for most people, the first thing that comes to mind is, a movie like Inception.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah.
The ultimate sandbox.
Exactly. The idea that you could just sort of wake up inside your own dream and suddenly start bending reality. You want to fly. Done. Walk through a wall. Easy.
But that's Hollywood, and what we're looking at today is the actual science, the real data on what's called lucid dreaming.
Right. And it turns out just knowing you're in a dream doesn't automatically make you a god in that world.
Not at all. And maybe we should quickly define what a lucid dream actually is, because it's not just a really vivid dream.
The vivid dream is just high-definition chaos, right?
Yeah.
You're still convinced it's real.
Exactly. Lucid dreaming is that specific moment of awareness, that aha moment where you're still in the dream, but a part of your brain goes, hang on, this isn't real, I'm asleep.
Which happens to a lot of people. I think the stat was something like 55% of people have experienced that at least once.
Right. But experiencing it and controlling it are two very, very different things. And that's where the research gets really interesting.
Yeah, that Bottomino and Peters paper from 2025 really broke this down for me. The idea that lucidity and control are separate skills.
Totally separate. You can be 100% aware that you're dreaming and still have absolutely zero control over what's happening.
Like being a passenger in your own head.
Precisely. The research shows that control is on a spectrum. It can fluctuate wildly, even in the same dream. One minute you have godlike powers, the next, the dream just pushes back.
And the study had some almost hilarious examples of that pushback.
Oh, yeah.
There was that person who wanted to fly, the classic lucid dream goal, right?
Of course.
But they couldn't just, take off like Superman. They had to find a specific lever in the dream to make wings appear.
And the other one who tried to spawn a submarine and just couldn't, the brain just said no.
So why does that happen? I mean, if it's my own brain, why won't it cooperate?
It's what some researchers call the expectation problem.
Right.
Even when you're lucid, your brain is still building the world based on what it knows from waking life, its own logic.
Its own rules.
Yeah, its own schema. So if you try to do something that your brain has no real-world script for, it often just glitches.
Like that anecdote about the guy who tried to fire a gun in his dream.
Exactly. He knew he was dreaming, he picked up a gun, but he'd never even held one in real life. So his brain had no data for the weight, the kickback, the sound. He pulls the trigger and nothing.
The simulation crashed.
It's a perfect analogy. The database was empty. Another dreamer tried to spin-poi those weighted ropes, and he couldn't get the physics right. The weight and momentum felt wrong because his brain couldn't accurately simulate it on the fly.
Which explains why the most reported activities are things like manipulating your own dream body. Flying, fighting, that kind of thing.
You know your body.
Right. But changing the actual environment, like the weather, that's way harder.
Much, much harder.
Okay, so control is difficult. It's buggy. But the research also says this is a learnable skill, right? You can train yourself.
Oh, absolutely. It's a skill you can develop.
And we're not just talking about, keeping a dream journal. There are some pretty advanced techniques now. The classics are things like reality testing.
Yeah, which is basically building a cognitive habit. During the day, you repeatedly check something in your environment. A classic one is looking at your hands.
Because in dreams, hands often look weird.
They look weird. You might have 6 fingers or your palms are blurry.
Yeah.
The idea is if you do it enough when you're awake, you'll eventually do it automatically in a dream. You'll look down, see 6 fingers, and that shock will trigger lucidity.
Okay, and then you have things like mild and wild.
Mild is mnemonic induction, basically setting a strong intention before you sleep, but wild. Wake-induced lucid dreaming. That one is intense.
That's the one where you try to keep your mind awake while your body falls asleep.
Yes, and it's the most direct, but also the hardest. You're trying to trick your brain.
I've read about this. It involves ignoring the rollover signal, right? You lie completely still and get this overwhelming urge to just shift your body.
That's the brain's checkpoint. It's sending out a little ping, asking, hey, is the body offline yet? If you move, it knows you're still awake.
But if you ignore it,
the brain assumes the body is asleep and initiates sleep paralysis, what's called REM atonia. Your body is locked down, but your mind is fully conscious.
and from there you can just step into the dream.
You can literally watch it form around you.
That takes some serious discipline, which is why the tech side of this is so fascinating. We're moving beyond mental tricks to actual hardware.
targeted lucidity reactivation, or TLR. This is a huge step forward.
Chicks are the one that uses sound cues, right?
Yeah, it's essentially Pavlovian conditioning. While you're awake, researchers will play a specific sound, say a sequence of beeps, and train you to do a reality check every time you hear it.
So beep, beep, beep means, am I dreaming?
Exactly. Then, when their sensors show you've entered REM sleep, they play that same sound. It cuts through into your dream.
And your conditioned brain hears it and goes, oh, time to check. And boom, you're lucid.
And we're already seeing commercial gadgets for this, the Z-Max headband, the Halo device that's supposed to come out. We're getting to a point where you might be able to buy lucidity off the shelf.
Which, you know, it really raises the question, if we can do this reliably, what's it for? Is it just for fun?
Or can we actually use that time for something productive? That's where the research is heading.
Right, the whole lab rat in the dream concept.
Right.
I have to admit, the idea of working while I sleep sounds a bit dystopian.
It does, but the science is incredible, especially around motor skill learning.
This is the idea that if you practice a physical skill in a lucid dream, you actually get better at it in real life.
Yes, they've run studies with people practicing darts, throwing coins into a cup, even doing squats, and they see measurable improvements in their waking performance.
How does that even work?
Well, the neuroscience shows that when you perform an action in a lucid dream, like moving your hand, the sensoromotor cortex in your brain lights up.
The same part of the brain that controls it when you're awake.
Almost identically. So you're strengthening those neural pathways without any physical strain on your body.
There was that amazing case study of the boxer.
Oh, yeah. He would use his lucid dreams to rehearse for an upcoming match. If he made a mistake in the dream fight, he'd literally rewind the dream and try a different strategy.
He was running simulations in his sleep. That's a wild competitive advantage.
It really is.
But what about more cognitive stuff? Not just physical skills, but creative problem solving.
That brings us to the puzzle study from Konkoly and their team. This was a really elegant experiment.
This is the one with the sounds again, right?
Right. They gave people difficult spatial puzzles to solve while they were awake, and they paired each puzzle with a unique sound.
Okay, so puzzle A gets sound A.
Exactly. Then they focused only on the puzzles the participants failed to solve.
The unsolved ones.
The unsolved ones. Then, while the participants were in REM sleep, the researchers played the sounds associated with those specific unsolved puzzles.
So they were basically incubating the problem while the person was asleep.
And it worked. The people who reported dreaming about the puzzles were way more likely to solve them the next morning.
So the dream state somehow unlocks a different way of thinking.
That's the theory. Your prefrontal cortex, which is like the logic police, is less active during dreams. This allows for what they call hyperassociative thinking. You connect ideas your waking brain would just dismiss.
It's a creative sweet spot.
A perfect way to put it.
Okay, so we've got skill practice, we've got problem solving. But we have to talk about the part of this research that felt the most like science fiction. Communication.
Interactive dreaming. Yeah, this is a massive breakthrough.
Because until now, dream research was always one way. You just had to wait for someone to wake up and hope they remember their dream correctly.
Right, which is so unreliable. But now we're asking questions to people while they are dreaming.
And they're answering in real time.
In real time.
So explain the mechanics of that. I mean, if you're in REM sleep, you're paralyzed. You can't talk. You can't signal with your hands. How are you answering?
You use the loopholes,
Yeah.
the things that aren't paralyzed, mainly eye movements. That's why it's called rapid eye movement sleep. And believe it or not, breathing.
Which brings us to the sniffing study.
The sniffing study.
I have to say, this sounds like a joke.
It sounds completely absurd, but it's brilliant. Sniffing is one of those motor actions your brain doesn't paralyze. So researchers would ask a lucid dreamer a simple math problem like, what is 8 minus 6?
And the dreamer would sniff twice.
Sniff, sniff. They would answer from inside the dream using a pre-agreed code.
That's unbelievable.
It is, because it proves that they are hearing the question from the outside world, processing it, calculating an answer, and then willfully controlling their physical body to respond, all while they're completely asleep.
It's definitive proof there's a conscious agent in there.
And it gets even wilder. You saw the headlines about REM space.
Dream-to-dream communication.
Yeah.
Yeah. Two people supposedly sending a message to each other while they were both asleep. I mean, is that tech or is that telepathy?
Oh, it's definitely tech, no magic involved. A server acts as a relay.
Okay, so how did it work?
So when the system detects dreamer A is in a lucid dream, the server sends them a word through an earbud. Let's say the word is tree.
Okay.
Dreamer A hears tree in their dream. They confirm they got it using eye movements. The server registers that. Then, when dreamer B enters a lucid state, the server sends them the word tree.
So it's like passing a note, but the classroom is the dream world.
The perfect description. But the implications are huge. We are literally building the protocol for a kind of networked dreaming.
Which sounds both incredible and maybe a little terrifying. I'm not sure I want work emails in my dreams.
And that is the perfect transition to the downsides, because this all sounds very cool, but there are definitely warning labels.
For sure. We mentioned sleep paralysis earlier. For some people, that's not just a weird transition.
Yeah.
It can be genuinely horrifying.
Yeah, the intruder hallucination is very common. Your brain's fear center, the amygdala, is super active in REM. So if you wake up and can't move, your brain often just invents a scary reason why.
A figure in the corner of the room or something
Yeah.
sitting on your chest.
Yeah, it can be really traumatic.
And what about just rest? If you're spending your nights practicing skills and solving puzzles, are you actually getting good sleep?
That's a major concern. REM sleep is vital for processing emotions and consolidating memories. If you turn it into a second work shift, you could wake up feeling exhausted and compromise your actual sleep quality.
There's also a risk noted here about dissociation.
This is more for the very frequent, very skilled lucid dreamers. If your dream life becomes as vivid and meaningful as your waking life, the line can start to get blurry.
You might not be sure if a memory is from a real event or a dream event.
Exactly.
But to flip that coin, the research also shows this can be incredibly therapeutic.
Especially for people with chronic nightmares or PTSD. It's called lucid dreaming therapy.
And the idea is that it shifts the power dynamic in the nightmare.
Completely. The moment you realize this is a dream, the fear plummets. You can turn and face the monster. You can ask it why it's there. You can change the ending. You regain control over your own mind.
That's a really powerful application of this. It's not just about fantasy, it's about healing.
It's about integration.
So we've gone all the way from the simple idea of flying to practicing boxing to solving puzzles and even sending messages from inside a dream.
It completely reframes what sleep is. It's not an off state. It's just a different operating system.
And we're just now learning the admin commands for it.
We're just scratching the surface.
So a final thought to leave you all with.
Mm.
If we get to a point where the dream world is a place where you can learn, work, and communicate with other people in real time, at what point does it become just as real and important as waking life?
And more importantly, are you sure you aren't dreaming right now?
Check your hands.
Thanks for listening to Science in Easy English.
We'll see you next time.